Hey everybody, it's me, it's Matty D, and in today's episode of Matty D's Nitro Dream, I am going to be reviewing a pretty dang special Monday Nitro that took place from Jacksonville, Florida. It was the November 6th, 1995 edition of Monday Nitro, and in this episode, actually surprisingly to me, got creamed in the ratings. Raw got a 2.6 to Nitro's 2.1. I thought it was a very good show, a very suspenseful show, and it had a lot of exciting things happening. But obviously, we don't know what took place on Raw. It might have just been an all-round better show, or Raw kind of had that heritage, it had that long-lasting loyal viewership at the time who probably wouldn't peel themselves away from Raw and put themselves towards the kind of new kid on the block. But we start off with Bobby the Brain Heenan, Steve Mongo McMichael and Eric Bischoff as part of her commentary team. And as usual, Mongo has Pepe, who is in this little spotty outfit that Mongo claims is a clown outfit. To me, Pepe didn't really look like a clown, but that's neither here nor there, obviously. Mongo says it's in honour of Bobby the Brain Heenan and Jimmy Hart, all the clowns of WCW. So very, very kind of cliche material from Mongo, as is par for the course most of the time for him. So this is a very special edition, like I've said. It is Call Your Shots Night, where, oh my goodness, I just seen in my notes a line from Mongo that I forgot all about. Let me tell you, baby, we got a lot of clowns in this league. Mongo is cliche, but he is very fantastic. So basically the way this pick your shots edition of Nitro works, it's a very early version of the fans picking the show that, you know, later became a big part of WWE and Taboo Tuesday and Cyber Sunday. Basically what the viewer would do is they would call a dedicated number and they would be picking between two separate locker rooms, and they would be picking one wrestler from each locker room to take on each other. So it's pretty, I don't know if this concept has ever been seen before in wrestling, because Nitro was live, Monday Night Raw, don't forget, was still taped at the time. This may be the very first edition, the very first example of letting the fans vote, and as is very traditional, you could really see where they were hoping that the fans would vote. They had to choose between two locker rooms. There was the red locker room, which was hosted by Mean Gene Okerlund, which leads to probably the funniest moment of the episode, which featured Ric Flair, Ming, DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, the Blue Bloods, which was Bobby Eaton, Gentleman Bobby Eaton, and William Regal, Big Bubba Rogers, The Shark, and Scott Norton. And then there was a blue locker room which featured Sting, and this obviously had Tony Schiavone as the interviewer there, you know, kind of the yin to Mean Gene Okerlund's yang. The blue locker room had Sting, Johnny B. Bad, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Dave Sullivan, who is just fascinating. I'm begging them to show us a Dave Sullivan match before he disappears forever on Nitro. Alex Wright, the Nasty Boys, and Mr. JL, and these wrestlers are very obviously the babyface locker room, so at least we know now that Alex Wright and Mr. JL and Johnny, well obviously we know Johnny B. Bad, but at least we now know that Alex Wright and Mr. JL are in fact babyfaces. So this is quite an interesting concept. Obviously they are desperate for the fans to vote towards Ric Flair versus Sting. I don't think that we're going to see, you know, the Shark taking on Dave Sullivan. I don't think that we're going to see Alex Wright versus Big Bubba Rogers, although these matches might be good, but it's very obvious that they are heading towards Ric Flair versus Sting, and I would have been very, very surprised if any wrestling match here would have won. I'm very surprised indeed. Eric Bischoff even angles that the fans should be voting for Ric Flair versus Sting, so you really can't see where they're going here. It's kind of like WWE whenever they did Cyber Sunday, and the options would be like a verbal debate, an arm wrestling match, and a street fight with no rules, you know, where they would really be aiming towards one exact stipulation. So interesting enough now. They show highlights of Lex Luger torture racking the Macho Man, Randy Savage, at Halloween Havoc. Eric Bischoff says that the Macho Man is here, but he's livid because he wants Luger badly for what happens at Halloween Havoc. But unfortunately, the WCW committee, security, they are not willing to authorize him to compete. Bobby the Brain Heenan implores the fans to pick up the phone to call for Tony Schiavone versus Mean Gene Okerlund. And if that was an option, I reckon they very well would have voted for that, because that would have been absolutely fantastic. So here we have a bit of a production snafu. The match that we're supposed to have is Cobra, who I'm excited to learn a lot about, versus the Giant. They introduce Cobra with the Giant's theme to begin with, and then they switch over to Cobra's theme. And oh boy, do I almost wish that they had kind of kept with the Giant's theme, because Cobra has the most annoying theme in the world. It's this Morse code, this weird like noise the whole way through his entrance theme. I think Cobra, if he wasn't so forgettable, this entrance theme would be right up there with the worst wrestling themes in history. An absolutely awful theme. But I was excited to see Cobra because his name, whenever I heard him being advertised for Saturday night, sounded so mysterious. But at the end of the day, it seems to be just a silly military gimmick. I did do a bit of research into things. I found out that Cobra is, I think the name is Jeff Farmer, who essentially was the fake Sting for a lot of that angle. A very solid hand, but it's a silly gimmick, and it's no wonder Cobra did not work. Cobra is clearly a babyface here. He gave a young fan his dog tag, but with a theme that annoying, it is so hard to cheer on for Cobra. It's the sort of thing where you wouldn't even want to see Cobra win a match, because you would just be dreading hearing that awful entrance theme. The Giant comes out now with his WCW World Heavyweight Championship that he hasn't officially won yet. He's just been carrying around since he really put Hulk Hogan to the sword at Halloween Havoc. There's a manic, laughing like a madman Jimmy the Heart running down to the ring with the Giant, completely hogging up the camera. The Giant picks up Dave Penzer and makes him announce that this is a WCW World Heavyweight Championship match, which is fun because obviously the Giant actually isn't WCW World Heavyweight Champion. There's been no evidence of that so far. Even Bobby the Brain Heenan disapproves of such awful tactics. But this is the supposed world title match between the Giant and the Cobra. The Cobra tricks the Giant. The Giant tricks Cobra into running towards him. And almost straight away, the Giant just chokeslams Cobra and pins him for the 1, 2, 3 extremely short match. I actually timed it at 17 seconds, a 0 out of 10, a dot essentially, because there was no match here. Bobby the Brain thinks this is a record short match, and Mongo says that Bobby hasn't seen anything as quick since his honeymoon. So Mongo was he's just on fire tonight. We cut to Mean Gene in the locker room, and Mean Gene Okerlund is in charge of absolute chaos tonight. Chaos is breaking out. Ric Flair is mugging for the camera. Shark and Scott Norton keep on fighting together, so it's hard to imagine them in the same locker room having a good time. Mean Gene Okerlund, he makes sure that we kind of know that the Blue Bloods are at the back reading books and sipping tea. So we see Earl Robert Eaton sipping a cup of tea and William Regal just reading a book. It's very odd stuff, but much fun. But that said, the Blue locker room, things aren't much better there. Hacksaw Jim Duggan keeps marching around and around in front of the camera like a madman. Johnny B. Bad is posturing with that WCW World Heavyweight that WCW World Television Championship. We have Sting saying that he wants the Nature Boy, and something gets bleeped out. I think, to be honest with you, I'm nearly certain it's the Nasty Boys, because you can see they're very animated. You can see that Knobs of the Nasty Boys is just desperately trying to make Alex Wright corpse and not look so serious, and it's very amusing to see. The Nasty Boys are livid at the Blue Bloods for daring to drink tea, and those segments are absolutely fantastic. I loved them. I loved both locker rooms. I love that they kind of gave us a glimpse in there to see what's going on. And I love this concept. It's a lot of fun. So we see an advertisement here for WCW World War Three. It's the next pay-per-view coming up. Just a very quick rundown. World War Three, it's WCW's attempt to to kind of compete against WWF with their Royal Rumble. So they have, the way this works, just to differentiate it from the Royal Rumble and your traditional Battle Royal. The premise is cool. There is 60 wrestlers involved here, so we've got double the participants of the Royal Rumble. We have 3 rings, and then I think whenever they get down to 20 wrestlers in total, they all go into one ring by themselves and have a little battle royal together. And the winner of this match will become the #1 contender to the WCW World Heavyweight Championship at Starrcade, I believe. So the premise is cool here. like I say, it's their attempt to compete with a Royal Rumble. The only issue is that it's very hard to film what's going on in 3 rings at the same time. And I did watch this match a long time ago because obviously I'm a mark for WCW, and I thought it would be quite an enjoyable concept to see, but it just doesn't work. It's not very exciting. If you think that the Royal Rumble this year, the 2022 Royal Rumble, was low on action and excitement in the men's match, oh boy, these World War Three matches are tough to stomach. They advertise that there will be 60 wrestlers, 3 rings, and 3 giants. I know that the giant obviously is going to be one of those. I think Shark's the other one. And Lex Luger, maybe? It's hard to tell, and I genuinely can't remember. But we'll hear more about World War Three as the show goes on and as we get towards the pay-per-view event. But we have a absolutely incredible segment up next after this promo. It's hilariously bad, like a lot of the Hulk Hogan promos we've seen, but this, it's so amusing. It's so much fun. I enjoyed it. I kept kind of thinking about it over the weekend and showed it to all my friends, but undisputedly it is bad. So Eric Bischoff says that we are now going to check in with Hulk Hogan at Venice Beach, California. Eric very heavily implies that this show is live. He says that, that this segment is live. He says that they're just going to check in with Hulk Hogan. And we start off with a man in a white suit that looks a lot like Jimi Hendrix playing electric guitar and singing a song about Hulk Hogan, kind of poorly. The lyrics are kind of like Hulk Hogan's gone into the dark side, and if you step outside into Hulk Hogan's world, you might literally not leave alive. I think the lyrics were kind of like, ha-na-na-na, Hulk Hogan is in the dark side. If you step into his world, you might not leave alive. And then he very gently plays guitar music without singing as we kind of shimmy the camera over to Hulk Hogan, who is sitting there, not standing there, not being animated. He is sitting down with the Macho Man, Randy Savage, and with all due respect, somebody who just looks like a homeless man. Hulk Hogan said his name. I don't know if he's some sort of Venice Beach legend who spends his days on the streets, but it's very strange. He seems to be like drunk and out of it. Not in this guy that Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage is in between. He keeps adding little sound bites. It's another weird thing is, since they've said about Randy Savage being backstage, it kind of seems, and yet they said about Randy Savage being backstage, but at the same time we can see that he's supposedly here in this very close to live segment. Obviously, Venice Beach, California is way at a different part of America than where we are today, which is Jacksonville, Florida. So it's a bit of a rambling promo. It's kind of glorious, and all of his friends are around him. It's kind of a motley crew of people just relaxing on Venice Beach as Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage say that they're going to beat up the Dungeon of Doom. Hulk Hogan says that Randy Savage has now joined the dark side, and he's realised that the prayers, the vitamins, and the demandments are the most important thing. And Randy Savage just kind of nodding his head like, yeah, brother. Like, he doesn't really seem to add very much except for just agreeing with the things that Hulk Hogan is saying. It's so nice to see the Mega Powers back again together, but it's such a strange promo. I absolutely loved it. I'm surprised that whenever we talk about, whenever they talk about wrestle crap and what made WCW so glorious and wacky, that we don't spend a lot more time talking about this promo, because it really was iconic to me almost, and I'm very surprised it's not more famous. ultimately, it's not a great promo. It's hard to work out what the message is that the Macho Man and Hulk Hogan are trying to deliver. A lot of the kind of cast and crew there with them are the exact opposite of cool, and the whole thing just kind of sucks. Randy tells Hulk Hogan to just stay in Venice and take his time and relax, and Randy will be the one, the Macho Man, will be the one to take care of everything else going on Monday Nitro. Great segment, but I recognise that it's great for how awful it is. It is not, you know, good for business, that's for sure. So we cut to here to the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan coming out, while Eric Bischoff does a bit of backtracking. He explains that Randy Savage was at Venice Beach earlier when the segment was filmed, to kind of counteract the fact that he said that Randy was backstage but just wasn't allowed to do anything tonight. Even Mongo here, the babyface announcer, who's the babyface announcer to end all good guy announcers, has to mock the guitar player. And yeah, the segment was just unreal. I loved it. And like I say, what this was, hold on folks, the 6th of November 1995. I don't know what season it was on Peacock, but probably season 1 of WCW Monday Nitro. And it is very worthwhile watching for sure. So the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan comes out here for a match against the Renegade. And Renegade comes out for his first match on Nitro. I've never seen this guy before. I know that he was kind of teased as the ultimate surprise to help Hulk Hogan at a pay-per-view not long ago. And the big implication here was that the Ultimate Warrior was indeed coming to WCW, and that, you know, obviously didn't happen. Ultimate Warrior never appeared, but the Renegade did. Same kind of build, same mannerisms, same kind of entrance theme and intensity. Renegade runs out to the ring here. He makes an immense start and starts battering Kevin Sullivan. He's so intense here, and the crowd are over for him. Renegade, to me, he's too much of a rip-off for him to really stand out, to be quite truthful. But at the same time, if they had maybe toned down the Ultimate Warrior aspect of him and gave him, I don't know, like some sort of name, he might have been a bigger star than he was, because like I say, the crowd was over. Jimmy Hart annoys Renegade, keeps chirping in his ear to give Kevin the heat. Hart is really annoying, and he kind of gets on my nerves a bit here. I don't think he's conducive to bringing fans in. I think he was annoying when he was with Hulk Hogan, and he's still kind of annoying here. But he does do a good job as a heel manager to give Kevin Sullivan the heat. And at least Renegade sells, unlike the Ultimate Warrior. Renegade sells his ass off for Kevin Sullivan here. So the Taskmaster is making grounds on the Renegade, beating him up, knocking him down constantly. And while this is going on, Bobby the Brain Heenan explains that he was discussing with his Japanese friends last week, because the Japanese wrestlers have not had a fair shake in WCW. But from now on, in a very, very downplayed element of this show, Bobby the Brain announced that the Japanese wrestlers would now get a chance on WCW Pro on a Saturday morning. I think at this time Pro was maybe WCW C or D show. I know when Thunder came around, it definitely was their D show, because I know they have, you know, WCW Monday Nitro, obviously. They have Worldwide, which is their third show. They have Saturday Night, which is their B show. So yeah, Pro is their D show. So for those wrestlers to get a fair shake, Bobby has engineered them a spot on WCW Pro for half an hour on Saturday mornings. And Bobby says that Sonny Ono will be here as well. So the Renegade gets a small comeback in the ring here. Counters Kevin Sullivan, I think, going for a knee. Renegade power slams Sullivan. He hits a cartwheel elbow, kind of like what Candice Michelle or Kelly Kelly used to hit. In fact, I think Kelly Kelly hit something like that in the Royal Rumble last night whenever she returned. And then Sullivan dodges Renegade, coming into the corner again with a knee lift. And then Sullivan just hits this very, very weak-looking stomp on the second rope to pin Renegade 1, 2, 3. Renegade did not look great here. He didn't get a lot of heat on Kevin Sullivan. The Taskmaster had his number, and let's face it, the Taskmaster is more of a manager-style wrestler than a big star. So for Renegade to just get destroyed by Sullivan so badly here, it was not a good look, and it was not a very long match. 4 out of 10 here. It wasn't the best. After the match, Jimmy Hart throws beer in Renegade's face and rubs all that face paint off and says that he brought in the Renegade and he could have made the Renegade a star, but no more! He is no longer the Renegade, he is just plain Rick. And I think off the top of my head, I hope he said Rick, because off the top of my head, all I can think about is that the Renegade, I think, became Joe Gomez. I could be wrong there, but anyway, I think Jimmy Hart calls the Renegade just plain Rick, but he might have called him plain Joe, and I think that's Renegade over with. You know, Jimmy Hart gave him his name, and he took it away in a heartbeat, so it is what it is. Renegade, we know his career ends in tragedy. Unfortunately, I think whenever Renegade got released by WCW, his mental health went on a decline, and he ended up actually ending his life tragically, which is awful. Absolutely awful. I wish he had a fairer shake here. I really do, because we'll see what we get to see from the wrestler formerly known as the Renegade over the next couple of weeks, but wow, that is heartbreaking, and it's so sad to hear, because I am sure no matter what held the Renegade in his life, he probably, he probably would have came through that. Suicide, it's never the answer. And as somebody who's attempted suicide before, I am very, very much aware of that. So it's hard to kind of think about, to be honest with you. Anyways, just to lighten the mood a bit, Mean Gene Okerlund is backstage with the heels, and chaos ensues big time. Shark and Scott Norton fight and fight and fight until they disappear off camera, and when Mean Gene wants a word with Ric Flair, the lights go off, and it's absolutely fantastic. And Mean Gene is just classic Mean Gene here. He says, "Hey, what's with this? Somebody turned the lights off. Who did that intentionally?" Mean Gene is amazing. I have been on a real binge recently of Mean Gene Okerlund things. I watched a video recently called Mean Gene Okerlund is in Bad Mood, and it was a very classic segment with Mean Gene and the Natural Born Thrillers. The Natural Born Thrillers took the piss out of Mean Gene, and Mean Gene had enough, and he called Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders? I think that is his name. Mike Sanders. Above average Mike Sanders, that's right. A prick, and threatened to kneecap Sean O'Hare, so it was a fantastic segment. But anyway, this is fantastic as well. Mean Gene is amazing, and woo! Ric Flair is amazing as well. Flair cuts a great promo referencing that the lights are off and he's in the dark, but he's the nature boy and he's inevitable in the dark. And then when the lights go on bright, Ric Flair says he's in control of everything, even the lights. It is just a fantastic promo by Rick. He really goes all out here and does his utmost best to make this as great as possible. I love Ric Flair, and I love him in this segment, and I love Mean Gene. Flair says that he's going to be against Sting tonight. He's pretty convinced that he's going to lose that vote, or win that vote, depending on what way you look at it. And unlike babyface or heels today, Flair is ready for the fight, and we see him ready for the fight later on in the show. So this was a great segment. We see a promo after the break for WCW Saturday Night, and oh boy, what a show it promises. WCW Saturday Night promises Arn Anderson versus Kurosawa, which isn't too bad, to be honest with you. The debut of Disco Inferno's new music video, which sounds amazing. Eric even admits here that this will cause the viewers to turn off, despite the fact that they still show it. It's just absolutely fascinating. And they also announced that Hacksaw Jim Duggan goes to Ireland. I do not fully understand what Hacksaw Jim Duggan going to Ireland is about, or what happens there, or why he's going to Ireland, or anything. But I need to watch this and find out. I'm going to do my best to check out what happens when Hacksaw Jim Duggan goes to Ireland, and I will check in with you on that next week. So out comes Chris Benoit here to take on Eddie Guerrero in what should be an awesome match. I have seen these two, I've said this a lot in my reviews, I have seen Guerrero and Benoit wrestle my whole life as a wrestling fan, and I will never tire of it. So Eric announces that the WCW Championship Committee are discussing where and when to have a tournament to crown the first Cruiserweight champion. That is very exciting. Eddie puts a lion tamer on Chris Benoit here as we show 4 Japanese delegates eating in the crowd yet again. Bobby the Brain adds here whenever he's confronted about why he's brought in his Japanese friends. Bobby says, "Nothing's too good for my good friends." Bobby is amazing. Eddie Guerrero goes for a dive, but Chris Benoit gets out of the way. That doesn't help Chris Benoit. Eddie Guerrero just dives off, just climbs up to the top turnbuckle and dives off the top rope onto him. They get back into the ring here. Venice Beach is a scary place, Eric Bischoff claims. He's doing his best to sell that segment that Hulk Hogan had, even though I'm sure in his heart he knows it sucked. As Eddie Guerrero gets caught in the top turnbuckle and Chris Benoit hits a suplex for the 2 count. He hits another devastating looking powerbomb on Eddie Guerrero like he did in his debut match a couple of weeks ago for a 2 count. And Eddie then catches Chris Benoit for a roll-up for a 2 count, but Chris Benoit stays in control. He hits a German suplex of a bridge for the 2 count. Another suplex for a 2 count as well. He just can't put away Eddie Guerrero here, Chris Benoit that is, pronouns pal. And Eddie Guerrero suplexes Chris Benoit kind of on the apron. You know, whenever Chris Benoit's on the outside of the apron, Eddie suplexes him back in, but Eddie Guerrero Chris Benoit tries to suplex Eddie Guerrero back into the ring, but Eddie falls on Chris Benoit for the 1, 2, 3, and Chris Benoit's first loss since the Crippler appeared in WCW Nitro. So that's quite surprising, to be honest with you. Benoit lost here. I think they wanted to keep Eddie Guerrero strong. They wanted to give Eddie his win back after losing 2 weeks in a row, once in a tag match to Benoit and once in singles action to Benoit. But the big issue here is whenever the 2 count happens, you can quite clearly see Benoit's feet were clearly well under the apron. You know, it wasn't just touching the rope, his feet were completely off the apron. But the referee still counted the 3 count, and despite Bobby the Brain Heenan's pleas to show a replay, they cut away to Tony Schiavone in the babyface locker room. 7.5 out of 10 here. Great match, probably more of a 6.5 out of 10 to be honest with you in hindsight, because it was short. For as good as it was short. So in the blue locker room here, in the babyface locker room, Dave Sullivan is sitting on a chair with a rabbit for some reason. Mr. JL and Alex Wright are posturing and pointing like this constantly and going like... Sting says that he wants Ric Flair because Ric Flair manipulated him. Ric Flair had the audacity to use the little boys and girls, the young Stingers, to manipulate him. And even though it's very obvious that we are going to see Sting versus Ric Flair here, and promos have been leading towards that, the Nasty Boys just can't help themselves but chime in. And the same goes for the Blue Bloods. So Ric Flair and Sting is a multi-layered feud that is, you know, being built up over years, and basically the Nasty Boys reckon they can get a wrestling match against the Blue Bloods simply because they had the audacity to drink tea on camera. I love WCW. I love the mid-90s. So it's main event time here. I'm going ahead, cutting ahead of things. We see an advertisement for the Fall Brawl 1995 video cassette, which it's a promo for the video cassette, but you can still quite clearly see that Vader is still on the cover, listed as being part of Hulk Hogan's team. We know Vader actually left WCW just essentially on the eve of WCW Monday Nitro starting, and to see him on the VHS cover, it just shows how long the kind of turnaround is, how non-negotiable changing posters are. You know, there was a lot of time to change that VHS cover, and they just weren't able to get around to it. So it's definitely a sign of the time here. We cut to the announce team, and Eric Bischoff announces that Sting and Ric Flair have won the popular vote, and I'm sure it must have been about, you know, Sting and Ric Flair 90% of the votes and the rest of the field 10% of the votes. That's just how kind of much that match was just bound to happen, to be honest with you. Mongo says that Sting will beat Ric Flair like a dog, but he means no offense to Pepe. Bobby the Brain Heenan enjoys some sake from his Japanese friends, and I just love this announce team so much. I love that Eric Bischoff is just the kind of straight man of the group, and he is the glue that holds everything together. Mongo has his awful jokes even for the time, his awful one-liners, and Bobby the Brain is just Bobby the Brain. He's so charming and weaselly and has so much guile to him. I just love and adore this announce team. You have no idea. So, main event here is Ric Flair versus Sting, and we are bound to have a good match here. Ric Flair comes out without Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman, which is strange. He still seems very confident, very cocky. Ric Flair back then, he's somebody that I would have found so hard to boo, because he comes across, you know, he comes across like he just does evil things because he wants to, more than he does evil things to get himself ahead in life, or to, you know, because he's a bit of a coward. He just seems to enjoy being evil. Sting comes out to the Man Called Sting entrance theme, and the crowd are absolutely electric as Sting starts off on an absolute, just on an absolute tear here. He body slams Ric Flair. He does the corner punches for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the crowd are just electric for it. Ric Flair does the whole, you know, babyface begging off, or sorry, heel begging off thing, and then hits a suplex on Sting whenever he's distracted. We come back from the break, and Eric basically makes it sound, Ric Flair, you know, he has the heat here. Eric basically implies very strongly that during the break, Ric Flair hit a low blow on the Stinger, because he says he was glad it wasn't on TV, and it was a kick to a certain area. Very, very family friendly. This show, very, very family friendly, but still something for grown adults to enjoy while they watch it with their kids. Ric Flair gets the figure 4 leg lock locked in, but Sting will not quit. You know, Flair keeps using the ropes for leverage, but Sting just is not having it. He pulls Ric Flair into the middle of the ring. He has that intensity. Sting's saying, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up no matter what you do on me. And the crowd go absolutely insane as Sting reverses the figure 4 leg lock. It's such great wrestling psychology here, and it's kind of a lost art nowadays. You know, these men they're not coming out here doing dives, they're not doing big impactful moves to each other, but the psychology is perfection. It's a chef's kiss of perfection. Sting no-sells Ric Flair's punches and chops, and then body slams Flair, but Ric Flair gets that thumb in the eye to get the heat again, and it takes Sting back to the base level again, takes Sting back to the bottom floor after kind of rising himself back up with a comeback. Ric Flair goes for a chair, but the referee kind of steals it from him as he runs towards Sting. Flair, in his anger, pushes referee Randy Anderson, and the commentary team makes sure that we all know that Ric Flair, you know, the Nature Boy, will not go unpunished here. He probably will get a fine of some kind for pushing the referee. Sorry, I've got bad hiccups. Eric Bischoff teases a special announcement after the match, which I was expecting because, you know, there was at least 20 minutes to go until the end of the show, and it's an hour-long show before Ric Flair and Sting even started things off here. So the Nature Boy gets caught at the top rope as usual and gets slammed. Sting punches Flair in the corner and literally lifts Randy Anderson away to do it, but Ric Flair grabs some brass knucks from his boxers and his trunks, and clocks Sting with a really stiff-looking punch. Ric Flair goes for an elbow drop, and surely this is it. 1, 2, and the Stinger breaks out. Absolutely insane. The crowd are going wild here. Flair is selling it, how he can't believe that Sting's kicked out of it. Sting hits a superplex and then the Scorpion Deathlock, and that's it. Ric Flair taps for the win, and the Stinger goes down, the Nature Boy goes down here. After the match, the Stinger still won't relinquish his hold as more referees come out and try and pull him off. Eddie Guerrero and Mr. JL come out, but Sting just will not stop the Deathlock. Evad Sullivan comes out, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Johnny B. Bad, and eventually Sting kind of gives in and breaks the hold. And Eric has been referring here for during this entire time Flair's been in the hold that Lex Luger's desperately trying to make the ring, but security's pulling him back. Eventually Sting breaks the hold, but then kind of runs back in again and locks it into Ric Flair yet again. A weird thing happens here where Lex Luger comes into the ring, gets past security, and talks Sting out of breaking the hold. At last somebody kind of speaks common sense to Sting, and it's the heel Lex Luger, the Lex Luger who literally, you know, betrayed Macho Man Randy Savage at Halloween Havoc, and yet here he is, you know, being the only one who can get into Sting's ear. None of his other friends, the other babyfaces could, but somehow Lex could. Absolutely fascinating to see. Anyways, because I know I've run super long in this video for an hour-long video. It's nearly an hour-long video for an hour-long wrestling show. Afterwards, you know, Sting and Lex Luger leave together, and you can just see Lex Luger's face when he's in front of the camera, slightly contorting into a smile, like this. And it's such a great storyline. I know it runs all the way to the NWO. I can't wait to find out more about what happens here between Lex Luger and the Stinger. But anyway, we go to a commercial break, and afterwards, Mean Gene Okerlund is in the ring with the Taskmaster, the Giant, and Jimmy Hart. Mean Gene asks Jimmy to explain what he has been up to recently, why the Giant has the WCW World Heavyweight Championship still. And Jimmy explains that when Hulk Hogan was in California making movies that end up in video stores before they go onto the silver screen, so essentially digs at Hulk Hogan's movies, Jimmy claims that he had the power of attorney for Hulk Hogan's decisions. Jimmy says that he was the one who signed the contract for Halloween Havoc, and he added the stipulation that would have made me suspicious if I was an attorney, that if Hulk Hogan was disqualified, he would lose the WCW World Heavyweight Championship belt. So that means that the Giant is the new World Heavyweight Champion, and this is why he's been carrying around that title recently with him, that big gold belt. But Mean Gene, as badass as he is, as brave as he is, basically says not so fast, and brings out the WCW attorney, Nick Lambros, who actually is a real-life attorney, or was a real-life attorney for WCW. Nick says that Jimmy Hart did have the power of attorney, but the Giant is not the World Heavyweight Champion, and Taskmaster's going crazy, the Giant's going crazy, Jimmy Hart is posturing and going like, just losing his mind like a madman. The reason why Nick Ambrose claims is that he was on the phone with the WCW Commissioner, Nick Bockwinkel, who conferred with the WCW Championship Committee, and they made the decision that because the DQ was dubious, because there was a lot of controversy to that disqualification, the World Heavyweight Championship will be held up and awarded to the winner of the big World War Three 60-man 3-ring battle royal. Absolutely awesome here. Really good storytelling. It's a bit hokey that, you know, that Jimmy Hart had it built into Hulk Hogan's contract that he would lose the title, especially since they were going to take it away from Giant anyway. But Mean Gene tells Jimmy to take the paperwork to the men's room because it's all it's good for. Mean Gene Okerlund is just the best. The Giant is absolutely livid, and it takes him a long time to kind of give back the title. Gene Okerlund, he is ever the gentleman and apologises to an esteemed man such as Nick Lambros for Kevin Sullivan's conduct, as Kevin Sullivan just yells like a mad thing at Lambros and claims that it's going to make what has happened today is going to make it so much sweeter when the Giant regains that WCW World Heavyweight Championship at World War Three. So they take it like men, you know, they do complain and whine and lose their temper over it, but ultimately the Giant at least gives back that title. So it was a really enjoyable segment here, and I just love Mean Gene being so polite. You know, he's called Mean Gene, but here he is, he's apologizing to somebody, you know, because some of the wrestlers were rude to him. Just absolutely fantastic stuff. So after Jimmy's yelled his head off at Nick Lambros, we cut back to the commentary team, and they big up this big title match at World War Three. What a great decision. What a way of making this Battle Royal mean as much as it possibly can in its first year. You know, absolutely everybody on the roster will be featuring in this match more than likely. I know they have a deep, deep roster, but 60 wrestlers is a lot of wrestlers. And I'm excited to watch it. I think I will watch it, as well as trying to get hold of watching Hacksaw Jim Duggan in Ireland. But that's it for the show. Next week on Nitro, they tease Randy Savage versus Ming, Johnny B. Bad versus Eddie Guerrero for the WCW television title, and Sting versus Dean Malenko, which should be a good match. So a really good show. You know, the Ric Flair Sting match, I forgot to give it a rating. I would say 9 out of 10. It was such a great match. Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit had a match that was too short to kind of, you know, like really elevate them to the next level like some of their other matches did. And we had a lot of storyline building that makes World War Three look like a can't miss pay-per-view. So really good show overall. I'm looking forward to Sting versus Dean Malenko next week. And I love the pick your poison, pick who wrestles against each other, all of that caper. It was brilliant. So thank you very much, everybody, for checking out my video. I hope you're all keeping well, and I will see you all again after a while. Thank you. I appreciate the views, and yeah, take care of yourself, everybody. And please make sure to watch that Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage segment down in Venice Beach, because talking about it does not do it justice. This has been me, Matty D, and I will catch you all again soon.